everyone. So the Utah Jazz have came back to reality here a little bit. They are currently sitting in the 8th seed, no longer the top 3 team in the West or even at number 1 in the West. They are 4-6 out of the last 10 games, and just they haven't looked the same team, right? They're not the young, promising, like, oh, maybe this team is the team that could turn around. They were playing just absolutely incredible basketball, but they are all starting to kind of average out here, and Utah is kind of heading in the direction that many believed that they were going to before the season began. They still have a lot of great young talent. I do think this team has a lot of promise and could be a lot of fun over the next few years, but now they're heading more in a trajectory of like, okay, like let's start this rebuild, right? Like let's go get a good draft pick. Utah, something we've talked about here on the channel before, they really shot themselves in the foot. The problem is they started off so hot and they were on such a great record at one point. They were like, 11-5 at one point, that they ended up just basically ruining any potential of getting Victor Wembanyama, very likely, unless something absolutely changes. And now the Lakers have no reason to go and trade Russell Westbrook for them to unload all of their veterans and stuff, right? So Utah is in a terrible place. And this is something that I talked about on this channel, is that like Danny Ainge shot himself in the foot. He had an opportunity to go tank. He didn't. This team overperformed in the beginning, and it ruined any chance of them potentially getting a top lottery pick, because this team is still good enough to where they're going to win games, right? And so they're going to be like a middle of the pack team. They're probably going to be a play-in team, and that's where they're going to be the next few years, unless Danny Ainge figures out a way to unload some of these guys, but I don't think they will. He doesn't want to trade Jordan Clarkson. I would absolutely love to get Lauri Markkanen, but realistically, they're not going to trade him. The Jazz 2 players that are reported to be untouchable are Lauri and Jordan. Those are the 2 guys that they just want to keep and that they want for the future. Now, obviously, there's a price for everything, but also if Lauri Markkanen was to be available, the bidding war would probably be too much for us to even entertain, right? They could get a much better deal elsewhere. Plus, we've already seen Danny Ainge will take a lesser deal if it means not trading to the Lakers. So I think realistically, we have no chance of getting Lauri Markkanen. You never know, never say never, but chances are it's pretty slim. But could we get like a Jared Vanderbilt, right? Like he's a guy that I think theoretically could make a lot of sense in a deal, especially for Utah, right? You got to unload some of these guys. You got to get rid of some of these guys, especially if you're heading another direction. Are you going to pay Vanderbilt, and you're going to pay Markkanen, and you're going to pay Sexton, and you're going to pay Clarkson, and you get what I'm saying? Like they're going to have to start making decisions at some point. Like who are you paying? What are you doing here? He's probably going to get a pretty good paycheck because he's been playing pretty solid. I don't think you really need him right now, at least, the direction you're going. I mean, you can make an argument he fits the timeline, but you have other guys right now that are better suited for what you're trying to build with this team. And it probably would be easier to replace him than like a Lauri Markkanen or, maybe you unload Sexton at some point, but he's still young enough to where he could be an impact player for you. I don't know. It's kind of what the issue was in the offseason, right? The Utah Jazz need to make decisions that are going to be tough decisions. Like what players are we going to keep for the long haul? What players are we not? What players are we going to pay? Which players are we not? If you could, theoretically get a, Vanderbilt and maybe like, some other piece, Malik Beasley, then I think the Lakers should look to explore that. I don't know if Utah would be willing to offer these guys or unload these guys to the Lakers, but I do think it's something that is at least worth a phone conversation. Like, hey, would you be willing to give up these guys? No, you're not getting both first, so don't even ask. But, could we work something out here? Now, obviously, the package would be centered around Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn because the Lakers aren't trading Russell Westbrook, at least not to the Jazz deal, right? Russ has shown he has way too much value. You're not getting Mike Conley, Jared Vanderbilt, and Mike Conley. Like, that's just not going to do it for you. Now, if you could get, like, Lauri Markkanen, and you could get, like, Vanderbilt, and you could get Beasley, I would probably do that, but again, I don't see that being a realistic possibility. I think Malik Beasley is definitely a player the Lakers could get. He's been pretty solid this year, right? A 3-and-D guy that could be very beneficial for the Lakers. I think he is a guy that they could get. I think, Kelly Olynyk may be a guy that they could get. And I think Jared Vanderbilt is a guy that they could get. So when you're talking about those three, you could work out theoretically to get a piece or two in a package for Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, right? So you take these two, and maybe you could go get Vanderbilt and Beasley. That would work perfectly. So like salary wise, that's like about as close to an even swap as it gets. You get Vanderbilt, Beasley, swap those two out for Kendrick Nunn and Patrick Beverley. Maybe you give up one first. This I would be okay with because you're getting Vanderbilt, who he has been incredible defensively. You're not getting the shooting that you'd get in some of the other packages, but Vanderbilt has been so good. He's still so young. High energy guy, can play both forward spots. I think he would be great, especially from the perimeter. 3-point shooting is not really there, but he can hit one here and there. He would be more of like an upside type player, right? He'd be more for now and the future. Let's go get, a Vanderbilt who could come in, play some solid defense, be a hustle guy, be a young athletic player, work and develop him, and have him be a key cog here on this team for the next few years, right? The next several years. Re-sign him to hopefully a reasonable contract, and you're off to the races, right? That's what that would be. Malik Beasley, same thing. You get him, 3-and-D guy. He's still very young. Still got a lot of upside. He's got more of the shooting and scoring and stuff. He could kind of be your KCP on this team, and be a player that you could start at the 2, start at the 3. So you could, if you wanted to, you could go like Dennis Schroeder, Beasley, Walker, and LeBron with Anthony Davis, right? That's a pretty good solid starting 5. Or you could even go Vanderbilt. Like you could go Walker, Beasley, Vanderbilt, LeBron, and Davis. That might even be better, although I think you'd have more shooting with Beasley, Walker, and Schroeder. So I think that would help. But Vanderbilt's a guy that you could plug and play in any situation. I would rather have these two, if at all possible. I think these two for Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn, I think that's one of the deals to really look at. I kind of lean towards like the Hornets or maybe even the Pistons deal a little more. I think for longevity, this is better than both of those deals because both of these guys are younger than like Kelly Oubre. PJ Washington's young. He's 24. But, I think this package, although PJ Washington is a better offensive player, Vanderbilt's the better defender. So it's just kind of like, what are you looking for? Do you think you could get Vanderbilt to be a great offensive player, or at least a serviceable offensive player? I think that just would kind of depend on what the Lakers could think. The only reason I kind of like this better than the Pistons deal is, again, the long-term play. I think the Pistons deal is the better win now play. I think it just depends on what the Lakers want, right? Like, I think Bojan Bogdanovic might be the best fit out of all the possible potential trades, right? And so I think his fit would just be really beneficial for the Lakers. A guy that can play on the ball, play off the ball, give you 20 points a night if you need him to. 50, 40, 90 shooting. Just been lights out. Just been incredible. Is having a great season. Get a young player in like a Sadiq Bey, 3-and-D style wing. He's a little inconsistent, but maybe you could kind of develop him. He's a guy you could have for the long term. But I think these two, they're very young still. A lot of room of growth, a lot of potential. Two guys that could be, be key pieces for you even after post LeBron, right? These are two guys that you could have and build around with Anthony Davis and then go get another star or two to kind of, complete your roster. And I think that could really help, right? You could have Vanderbilt be your 4 next to Anthony Davis for the next, 5 years, 6 years, whatever, and then Beasley play your 2 spot. This would also still give you financial flexibility, right? Like that would be something that's good. And I know it'd be kind of ironic because I'm sure somebody's going to say this in the comments. Why would the Jazz take Beverley back like, why would they make that deal after they just traded Beverley, blah, blah, blah. And it's for the assets. They're a tanking team. Beverley's still an expiring contract, right? Make the trade, take him on. You're going to buy him out. You're going to waive him. They were willing to take on Russell Westbrook. They'd be willing to take on, a Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn, waive them, and then be good in that regard. And you're getting a first-round pick in that deal, right? That's why they would do that. But my concern is I don't know if they would be able to do this deal. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And again, the Jazz are going to have to make decisions. These two might be the odd man out. So maybe you could get them as the odd man out. But the other alternative would be Kelly Olynyk and Malik Beasley. Now, obviously, that's not as sexy of a trade, I guess, as Vanderbilt. But Olynyk has been just great this year. He really has. And he might be a perfect complement next to Anthony Davis. A guy that can do a little bit of everything, right? He can rebound, he can pass, excellent shooter. He's especially this season, shooting the basketball. He has been fantastic shooting the basketball this year from 3-point range, and just in general. So have a big floor spacer that can again rebound, defend, got good size, all of that stuff. I mean, this year he is currently right now shooting 47% from three. That's insane. He's a career 37% 3-point shooter. So it's not like he's a bad 3-point shooter. He's a guy that, based on his stats this year, he's giving you, 13, 5, and 3. So he's well-rounded, shooting 55% from the field and 47.1% from three. He might be that floor spacing big that the Lakers need, right? He might be that floor spacing big that could really help. Good size, 6'11", 240. He's always been a hustle player, willing to do the dirty work, all of that stuff. So, he might be a valuable piece. I think he helps more now and helps win more now than Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt's more of the long-term play, where Kelly Olynyk, he'd be more of a in the now, in the moment type play. Although it's not like Kelly Olynyk's 40. He's still 31, so he's still young. You could still have him for the next 3-4 years if you wanted to. And then Malik Beasley. So in this case, you could have Walker, Beasley, LeBron, Olynyk, and Davis. And now you got your big 3-and-D, floor spacer. LeBron moves to the 3, which is kind of, it's kind of tough to have him play the 3 spot. Especially in today's NBA, because I just think there's more threes. But depending on the matchups, he could do a good job. Also, you would have Beasley and Walker, who could, if it is somebody, that you don't really want LeBron guarding, you can put those two on him. So you figure it out, right? You can make it work. Or you have Olynyk come off the bench, and then you just have maybe Schroeder, Walker, and Malik Beasley. And then Kelly Olynyk gives you that other look, which Kelly Olynyk would also give you a look that you don't really have from your other bigs. Thomas Bryant could spread the floor a little bit, but he's not shooting to the level that Kelly Olynyk is. So I wouldn't mind this either way. The problem with Kelly Olynyk, though, is it's hard to get there. So the Beasley and Vanderbilt even swap. Bev, Nunn, Beasley, Vanderbilt, easy peasy. Obviously, you're throwing in draft picks, whatever, right? But the salary-wise, player-wise, it's about as smooth of a fit as it gets, right? Problem with this is, even if you throw in Damian Jones, it's still not enough to get there. So you'd have to throw in a Toscano Anderson or something like that. So you're basically unloading 4 players for 2. So now you got to kind of convince would Utah be willing to buy out 4 guys? Which becomes the problem, because maybe they would, maybe they'd look at it, or maybe they would want to keep some of the guys, and say, hey, let's keep 2 guys, waive 2 guys, right? We're unloading Beasley, we're unloading Vanderbilt. Olynyk. Maybe we keep Damian Jones and see if we can kind of get him to kind of be like what he was in Sacramento. That would be beneficial for us. He's still very young, a lot of potential, a lot of upside. Let's see what we could do with him. He's cheap enough for a low risk, high reward type play. And then maybe they keep, Kendrick Nunn and kind of see like what they could do with Kendrick Nunn as like a guy. Or maybe they do keep Patrick Beverley and have him just be a locker room guy. You know what I mean? Like, and be a defensive guy. That could be a possibility. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I think it's at least worth a phone call. See what you could do. Worst case, you just walk away. Worst case, you just say no. But as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What would you think of these two Utah deals? Would you be for it? Would you be against it? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, good, bad, ugly, somewhere in between. I love to hear your thoughts and opinions, so let me know down in the comment section below.